Welcome back to my 100% tutorials. We're now up to the last chapter of Effect and Cause, Chapter 3. This level probably has the shortest amount of gameplay out of any other, so it should be a relatively quick learn. That said, I find a lot of the movement to be a bit awkward due to how some of the level geometry is laid out. There are some cool little tricks here and there in the harder difficulties though, so it definitely has a charm for some people. Enough said though, let's get into it. Starting off with the beginner difficulty, you'll want to immediately make sure you're in the past timeline, and this will depend on how you ended the last level. Hit the button, then slide and jump to the right side of the screen. Slide down the escalator, then just continue to slide up into the building ahead. Come through this door on the right, then grab the wall on the right to jump up to this terminal. Make the necessary time swaps and hack it. After, time swap again, turn around, and come back to the door you entered through. I would recommend time swapping fairly early here as well, since it's possible to rodeo this Titan if it's too close. Once outside though, grab the wall on the right, then jump over top to the left and just slide up to the cutscene trigger. And you'll want to time swap as soon as you exit, since the enemy Titan here can be aggressive sometimes. However, you do need to be in the past timeline to trigger the explosion, so keep that in mind. Starting off the time freeze section, just slide up straight to the zipline and ride it up to the ship. If you double jump right at the end, you can avoid mantling, which saves a small amount of time. From here though, slide, jump, and kick off this first wall on the left. Then just slide up all the way up this right side of the lower platforms. Grab the wall, then jump to this last big piece of debris. Then just a couple more slide hops to make it up to the arc, then interact with it. And that's it, that's the level. That's just roughly a minute of cutscenes left to this point. So yeah, that's Chapter 3 of Effect and Cause, very short and sweet. Next level we'll start off the Beacon mission, which is home to some of the best parts of the run, so I'll see you there. Starting up the intermediate strats, we're just going to make a small adjustment to the starting movement. Instead of sliding down the escalator, we're going to double jump and bonk the ceiling so we land right at the bottom and don't eat any friction. Then fast forwarding to the terminal, instead of going for a normal string of slide hops, you can instantly shoot at the 90 speed using the fan on the wall. However, the lineup is a little precise. To line it up, time swap and look at this dark line behind the fan. You want to be looking at it straight on to line yourself up. Then jump forward and crouch to get hit by the fan. If done right, you'll get shot out the Titan door that you can tap strafe to course correct toward the cutscene trigger. And again, you'll want to time swap pretty early after exiting to dodge the Titan. Now just one last upgrade to our movement. In the ship during the time freeze segment, you can instead CFEB off the inside of the ship to get more speed quicker. Be careful with this though, because the wall is very short. That's going to do it for intermediate strats though, not a whole lot of changes. For the first expert strat, you can throw in a frag and a crouch kick right at the start of the level to go much faster. You might need to play with the timing a bit, but I aim to pull the frag as I run through the door, then jump when I'm about halfway along this platform. Then I strafe into the crouch kick and throw the frag immediately after. This will get you up to about 70 speed if done right. You're also trying to avoid this lip on the ground because it can eat your speed if you land on it. And generally, you achieve this by pulling the frag earlier, thus having it boost you earlier and push your trajectory past it. Having this much speed also changes our entry into the terminal room. Instead, we're going to go to the bigger door and do an extended slide hop up to the cylinder, and crouch kick and tap strafe into the terminal room. You should only be doing this though if you're above 60 speed or so, otherwise it's pretty easy to die to these Titans. Moving on to the fan boost, if you're proficient at spam strafing, you can slightly optimize this trick by spam strafing past this post to the left of the exit. It is really tight though, so it can be a bit risky. There is also another strat you can do here that can be slightly faster, by about 1 second at most. I don't believe this is something runners have really adopted into runs yet, but it seems like it could be viable, so I figured I'd go over it. This is called Quantum Tunnel. This utilizes the laser grid for speed as well as time stop, a separate glitch that desyncs your position between timelines, effectively allowing you to phase through all geometry. This gives you a very fast and tight line to the cutscene trigger. So to set up time stop, you're simply going to time swap and interact with this panel at the exact same time. And since you have to time swap to get into the room, you'll have to wait about a half second before you can time swap again. You'll know you got it if you see the time swap animation and your camera doesn't warp around at all. You can retry it if you mess it up, but it's probably going to be better to just cut your losses and do the fan boost. But once you have time stop active and you've hacked the panel, turn around and line yourself up with this line pattern on the ground. You can kind of do this all in one motion as you're sprinting around. Then you're going to jump forward, time swap, jump backward, time swap, get boosted, time swap, then wait for the damage indicator to start shrinking before one last time swap. We're trying to hit a trigger that surrounds this entrance to the building before progressing to the cutscene, so you don't want to cut your line too tight here. With how this area is laid out, you can barely hit the trigger if you swap back early enough and scrape along the outside of this little walkway. If you hit the trigger, you'll see these Reapers drop in, and you know it's safe to slide out to the cutscene. It can be pretty easy to miss the trigger with this line though, so if you want, you can slightly adjust the setup and look for this line on the ground instead. This tends to send you slightly more to the right, either bumping the inside of the walkway or landing near the bigger entrance. It's pretty much impossible to miss the trigger if you land in either of these spots. However, taking a line farther to the right puts you closer to being on par with the fan boost strat, so it loses most of the time save and starts to become more of an alternate strat, which is not the worst thing if you find it more comfortable. Moving on to the time freeze segment, we have a couple more changes happening here. First of all, we have Ship Skip 2.0, which is just a better version of the now arguably obsolete OG Ship Skip. This route detaches from the zipline early and takes a crouch kick off a piece of debris on the left to skip the ship entirely. I aim to detach from the zipline as soon as my speedometer hits 48, then double jump and tap strafe left to hit the debris. Even with bad movement, you can still get a mantle sometimes. There is also another variation of this trick which uses 2 crouch kicks, so it is faster if done right. Instead of going straight across after the first kick, you can tap strafe right and jump up to the wall above for another crouch kick. Personally, I find this version very difficult and not worth going for, but I've seen a handful of other runners go for it, so it might just be a preference thing. Now, one last route change before the end, you can opt to take this left path toward the arc. It isn't actually any faster or slower than the normal route. I just find it more consistent since my movement can't get tripped up from spammy jumps up the ramp. Assuming I have decent speed here though, I'll jump to the first platform, skip the second, and tap strafe to the right as I approach the wall. Crouch kick, jump to the next platform, wall jump off the side here, and double jump up to interact with the arc through the floor, because you can do that for some reason. Getting the prompt here can be finicky though. I aim for the same spot every time as I'm jumping up. There's this small corner between 2 of the hexes that you can wedge yourself in, and it's also close enough to give you the prompt. Even if you don't land in that corner immediately, you can usually just shimmy your way over to get there. One more small thing you'll want to watch out for is getting crouch locked, since it happens pretty easily here. Just make sure to stay on crouch as you approach, and don't go too far under the arc casing. That's all for Effect and Cause 3. Again, pretty short and sweet level, with a couple of cool tricks. Hopefully you were able to learn everything without too much trouble. But anyway, thanks for watching, and good luck in your practice.